Hey everyone, this is Nathan Williams with BlackRain79.com, and I'm back here with another hand history review for you guys. So today's hand was sent to me by Lars from Denmark, and he's playing the NL2 6 Max Zoom tables on PokerStars. So let's just jump right into the action. So right off the bat here, Villain 22 opens from early position. He opens to, what is that, 3.5 times the blind. But the thing to clearly note here is that this player is extremely short stacked to start the hand. He started the hand with, what is that, 50 cents would be 25 big blinds. So I've talked about that before. I talked about that in the last video, actually, that, when players are short stacked, 75 big blinds, 50 big blinds, and now down to 25 big blinds, it changes the way that we need to play the game completely. When they're this short stacked, it's almost like just get it in pre-flop. It doesn't even matter. A top pair is always all in versus a 25 big blind short stack, even versus a 50 big blind stack. Top pair, top kicker with a hand like this is pretty much always going to be all in. 75 big blinds is a little iffy, and 100 we can definitely get away in some spots. We're not always going to get all the money in. So that's kind of a quick little synopsis of my thinking going into this, and we'll just see how the action plays out. So Lars decides to come in for the 3-bet, which I completely agree with. I think you just want to isolate this player, essentially. I think that we're... actually, I think that we're ahead, but I actually should say that Lars, the reads that he gave me in this hand, he's playing Zoom, so he said he had the HUD running, but, you guys have played Zoom before, it's hard to get a lot of reads. You got to play against these players a lot to get to build up a lot of reads against these players. So he told me that he just started playing Zoom again, so he's essentially, everyone in this hand is just going to be unknown. So we're just going to play this with that in mind. So Villain 21, though, also decides to get involved in the action here. Now, once again, we're just going to assume that both players are complete unknowns. So Villain 22 decides to make the old call there. He's got half a stack in the middle already, so let's go to the flop. So obviously a great flop for our hand. There's a number of draws, so like straight draws and stuff, but ultimately we basically crushed the board with top pair, top kicker. And the small blind or big blind goes ahead. Villain 21, he goes ahead and makes the check. Villain 22 shoves his 26 remaining cents in the middle, and now the action is on Lars. So what is the decision to be made here? Well, I mean, I think this is the interesting, honestly, one of the most interesting spots in the hand. I think a lot of people would raise here, and I actually agree with Lars's decision to just call. I think that if Villain 21 was in there sort of trying to set mine with a hand like, pocket 8s or below, obviously, well, not pocket 5s, obviously. He'd have a set with that hand, but just some sort of hand where he has middle pair or, pocket 6s, pocket 7s, whatever. He's just going to fold to 26 cents. Basically, if he has one of those hands that's, pocket 6s, pocket 7s, he's just going to pocket 2s, pocket 3s, pocket 4s, all these hands. He's just going to fold, to the 26 cents. So I really don't think that there's a whole lot of points in raising it up here to isolate or anything. I think that, clearly we are way ahead of Villain 21 or we're way behind. And I would rather just risk less by just making a flat call here and just probably winning again. With a showdown against Villain 22 almost all the time, he's already all in, so there's not really anything else to say there. But this is, of course, the interesting spot here because Villain 21 decides to raise it up. So I briefly looked over this hand before I hit the record button, and I will say that my first instinct here was to fold. Now, I know that we have no information about any of these players, but as I talked about it, I've been reviewing a lot of NL2 hands lately, and I talked about it in one of the previous videos that NL2 is a very, very specific game. You get a ton of these insanely nitty beginners, frankly. I mean, they are regulars, but they're beginners to the game of poker. And what they do is they basically play a lot of tables. They play extremely tight. And when they make a raise like this, they got the nuts. I know because I did it myself for years and made a lot of money in these games, $2 at a time. Now, of course, yeah, they're unknown players. You don't know for sure, but just in my experience, I think that specifically in this game, NL2, that That's there's just so many of these ultra nitty kind of mass multi-tablers that just a lot of times here, when he makes this kind of play, he's going to show up with the nuts. Now, the other thing to note here is we're going to get to see it. Like, he's going to have to show down the hand because villain 22 is in there, and so that was kind of my thinking, going in, is like, you got to show me the hand, man. So he can't be bluffing in a spot here because he has to beat the other player still. So my first instinct here was to fold. Lars did not agree, and he decided to make the call. I don't think it's terrible by any means. I think a lot of players would call here. I've certainly done it many, many times myself, and seen sometimes I win, but I would say more often than not I lose. And we'll see the result. I'll just run through the results in this hand. Villain 21 goes ahead and just open shoves the turn, sticks the rest in. And, as played, Lars calling the flop, I don't really know how you can fold the turn now. If you're going to call the flop, I mean, the 3 of clubs really doesn't change anything. So maybe if it came a king and he shoved, I could see maybe final fold because the jack 10 got there. King queen beats us now, but with the 3 of clubs, I don't know how you fold here. So it's just kind of one of those gross spots where I really I would prefer just to make the fold on the flop most of the time here, because I think it's so gross now in the turn. I mean, you're just calling here and you're just hoping he's bluffing essentially, and as we're going to see, he's not bluffing. I don't know. I think it's a pretty interesting spot. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this. It's definitely It's a really, really difficult spot. I mean, you guys can see it's a huge cooler. I mean, there's no way you can fault Lars at all for the way he played this hand. I think a lot of people would stack off here. Like I said, I've stacked off here a million times myself. But just in in my experience playing these games, I think that you can make these kind of hero folds and be right about it at NL2 a lot. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure you guys like this video if you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you want to see tons more hands like this. Oh, and by the way, I just want to thank Lars for sending me this hand. He is known as Fun Diver in the comments below. He's my best commenter for sure on all my videos I put out. Super thoughtful comments every single time. Clearly thinks about the game on a deeper level. So Lars, thank you for sending me this hand. And I think you sent me some others. I will be getting to them in the future. I got a lot of hands here to review. But thanks again, once again, for all your comments and for sending me this hand. I hope that my review here was useful for you. And for you guys as well out there, I hope this hand was useful for you. Lastly, make sure you grab my free ebook. It's the link in the description below. That'll give you my complete strategy on how I beat these stakes. And yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. It's been Nathan Williams with BlackRain79.com.